Hi everybody, my name is Jeffrey Colucci and I serve the University as Student Body President, and I'm here today with Liz Garcia, the Executive Director of the Office of Equity and Diversity and Special Assistant to the President. Hi Liz, how are you?
Thank you, Jeff, for the opportunity to come and talk to you and the rest of the student body about our office and what we do here at the university.
So can you give a little bit of an introduction to the Office of Equity and Diversity and why a student might interact with your office?
Sure. So generally speaking, we provide education and training for faculty and staff. Our primary goal, though, and our primary purpose is to enforce and to oversee the non-discrimination and the anti-harassment policy, which was recently adopted by Father Pilar's this summer. And the training that we provide for faculty and staff really does relate to creating an inclusive campus, and we've created some lunch and learns that faculty and staff can go to. We have pedagogy workshops on how to create a more inclusive classroom with faculty. We coordinate with different departments and both with faculty and staff on different opportunities to educate our staff and our faculty population on creating an inclusive workplace. And other times you'll see Christine and I just providing information sessions and training throughout the university, but the majority of what we do is oversee those two policies.
So how can a student report harassment or discriminatory behavior?
So that's actually a great question, and we have several different ways that can happen. We actually prefer that students come directly to the Office of Equity and Diversity, but we also know that sometimes they don't feel comfortable with us. They may not know us. They may have a good relationship with someone else and they will want to chat with that person. There's multiple ways that it can be. Come to us, or you can share it with a dean of students or an academic dean, some other person in administration, and they're required to report it to us. Faculty and staff, when it comes to discrimination based on a protected class, which I'll describe in a little while, they don't really have an obligation to come forward, but a lot of faculty do. So sometimes it's not even the student reporting what's happening to them, it's someone else reporting on their behalf. Another way to report it is to contact the police department. There's also an anonymous form and a silent witness form. So the silent witness form is on the police department's website, but on the Office of Equity and Diversity website, and also now on that new diversity and inclusion website that was recently announced, there's a link to anonymous reporting. And while we encourage anonymous reporting, sometimes it does limit what we can do based on the information if we don't have enough information to do something. So we do encourage that in-person contact, but we want to know what's happening. So if the person only feels comfortable reporting it through anonymous ways, we look at everything seriously.
So what happens after a student reports an incident to the Office of Equity and Diversity?
So what will happen is if a student reports directly, or if we receive a report from another person about a student, is that it's going to be a very quick communication. We're going to send out an email to the person that we call a complainant, and it's an introduction of who we are and a request to meet with that student. If the student is open to coming and talk to us, we are more than happy to sit down. We go through the policy, we talk about confidentiality, we talk about privacy. We try to ascertain what the facts are to make sure that it falls under our policy, because the non-discrimination and anti-harassment policy is not a broad policy. Some of those issues that are not related to a protected class are still going to go to the Student Code of Conduct Office. We'll only look at the ones that are based on a protected class. And what do I mean by that? Race, national origin, sex, disability, veteran status, color, ancestry, and several other ones, gender identity, sexual orientation. Some of those, you can find it anywhere on our website. So we look at that and we see whether or not it fits in under our policy. If it does, then we talk about what processes the student can choose to move forward. Sometimes they just want us to have something on the record, so we take down the notes, we put it in the file. Well, then we also describe the informal process. So if somebody wants something to be done, we will go through and talk to them about the informal process versus the formal process. The formal process involves investigations and witnesses. The informal process could be something more like a mediation. The student is always in control of how to move forward with the matter, except that there are a couple of instances where they may not. So if we've already known about someone who's gone through our office and the behavior hasn't changed, we may have to go forward through a formal process anyway. Or if there is a a danger to the health and safety of a student or the community, we may have to go forward without the student's approval. That happens very rarely, and it has to be something very egregious. But at the same time, it's an option that we have, and we do tell the student that to begin with. So that's part of the conversation in that initial meeting. We're very open and honest with everybody with, this is how we have to go through if we have to take away the control from the student. But at no time does the student actually have to participate in the formal process as well. And I think that's really important to encourage people to come and report to us. We also talk about interim and supportive measures. So if, for example, a student feels unsafe and they want a no contact order, we can put one of those in place. If the student's in the same class with someone else, we can have a conversation with them and talk about how to limit the contact in class. If we need to move someone from their residence hall, these are all different things that we talk one-on-one with the person who is the complainant. And if the student tells us that they don't want to move forward and we don't see a need to move forward, then we don't. We just have it on the file and it's there. If the student ever changes their mind, they can always come back.
So what if a student is scared to report something to the Office of Equity and Diversity?
Well, I think that most people are scared to report something, especially if it's against a faculty or a staff member, because they're afraid of retaliation. We have a retaliation provision in the policy, so that is part of the conversation that we continue to have through the process. So if, for example, you came to me and you reported something and you were concerned that Professor X might give you a bad grade or might treat you differently in the class, your communication with me is always open. We continue to talk. You can continue to bring this to my attention. If I need to intervene, I will intervene and I can intervene. And we talk about how the best method is to intervene. If folks are also more afraid just because they don't know who we are, they can always bring a support person with them. They don't ever have to come alone. They can bring a friend, they can bring another advisor or a staff member, even a family member or a friend from outside of the university. If they feel like they need to have an attorney present, they're entitled to bring an attorney, forward as well. So, we understand that hesitation. It's not an easy process to come to our office, and we try to be as open and honest with everybody, but we want people to feel comfortable, and we want everybody to know that there are protections in place for those that to come forward.
What is one thing that you want students to know about your office?
So the one thing that I think is very important is that I've heard since I've been here for almost 2 years now, is that they don't think that anything is going to get done, or that they already know about this and nothing has ever been done. And the truth is that most of the time we don't know what's going on. We are up here in IMBM, which is our building right next to Alumni Hall. Not many folks know where we are. We're kind of to the side. We don't walk around. We're not in the classes with everybody. So it's really important that people bring stuff to our attention. And there will be times when folks bring stuff to our attention and we're going to say, well, that doesn't rise to a level of a possible violation of our policy. But we document it. If it happens again, then we'll start seeing a pattern or a trend and we can do something about that. But that is the one thing that I really want everybody who may be listening to this to know is don't assume that we know what's going on. We take everything that comes to our office seriously. Like I said, there may be times where we can't do anything, but we then have the basis to move forward in the future.
Well, thank you so much today for your time, Liz, for talking a little bit about your office and how they serve as a resource to students who might experience harassment or discriminatory behavior.
Thanks again, I really appreciate the opportunity.